It's my rugs. It's my vacuum cleaner. And if I don't want people who are from Sweden using my vacuum cleaner, that's my business. But when it comes to the government, it's very, very different. Because as Thomas points out, it's a cliche even now. Government's supposed to be colorblind. Well,
what do you think about the constitutionality of being told that you have to buy medical insurance from the federal government?
Well, I think flatly it's unconstitutional. I mean, even if you stretch the interstate commerce clause as far as it has been stretched, this is beyond the pale. This is forcing people to do something that they don't want to do, not preventing them from doing something that they want to do that might be considered antisocial, like killing people. So that's one point. And a good analogy, of course, is automobile insurance. Now, some of the people who are the three people that are left in support of this say, oh, well, the government, the state forces you to buy auto insurance. Well, that's equivocal because they require you to buy liability insurance because if you hit some guy, you have to pay for it. They don't make you buy collision insurance.
Right.
That's the whole case on mandatory insurance. But what's below it, what's beneath it, is what's so pernicious, and that is that they, whatever their other motives, and there are plenty, economic and financial and social and otherwise, what they're doing is they're telling you what they think you ought to do to enhance or protect your life. Well, I haven't talked...
That also includes what services and the kind of services that those institutions are going to be offering, which have nothing to do with alternative therapies and modalities, which has nothing to do with life extension, which has nothing to do with 90% of FDA-stopped remedies that are squelched and not even allowed to get to the public. Seriously.
Well, that's very, very true, and that's another corner of this thing that makes it so dangerous. But a related aspect to that is that it's simply, and an important one, is that it's simply another example of how government is trying, and unfortunately succeeding, more and more to tell you how you can live your life and what, in its judgment, and the judgment of the do-gooders who work for them, are most lead to a most successful life on your part. I mean, I could regale you with examples of that have existed for years, but when you're talking about medical care, you're talking about life and death. I mean, are they going to tell me that I can't be a vegan because I need to eat red meat because that's somehow good for me?
Or genetically modified food?
Well, that's right. I mean, but why not? Why not? I mean, there's no reason in principle, given everything else they've already gotten away with and everything that they're proposing, that it can't lead to that kind of thing. I mean, obesity is, quote, a national problem, quote. Okay, so now they're going to cut obese people down to X calories a day because, after all, the government has to pay to care for these people and whatever. I mean, this is beyond a slippery slope. I mean, this is a greased slope where this thing is heading. And unfortunately, it's happening because of these politicians and the president, and that's happening because people are sending those people there and giving them power to do these things. Ultimately, the fault is whoever lives next door to you and me. That's the problem. I mean, we have a fat and happy and stupid and disinterested large population in this country. And if that sounds harsh, then so be it. I mean, these people didn't just materialize out of thin air. Somebody sent Barney Frank there, and somebody sent Chris Dodd there, and somebody sent Durkin there, and for that matter, Obama as well.
It just appears that the freedoms of the American people are slowly being chipped away at every facet you turn. Now, this new thing that happened in the airport with the airline and the, quote, terrorist supposed that was on that plane.
Right.
This technology for screening people has been ready to roll out for a long time. And these machines are so dangerous, their level of pollution on people, the public has no idea. So when I go through airports, personally, I'd rather be frisked than go through the ionizing radiation over and over and over and over.
The problem in the machines are used for, presumably, to detect terrorists, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, is that the end at which to start? We will never prevent all of that. You could give everybody a body cavity search, strip them naked, and interview them and interrogate them for a week. Do you really think that's going to stop some guy from blowing up a plane when the maintenance crews have free access to the airplanes, when they can put luggage in the hold, when they can bribe a stewardess or threaten a flight attendant, or threaten a flight attendant, if you don't put this in the bathroom when you take off, we're going to kill your brother or your mother or your kid. You really think that those machines, even at optimal use, and even if they were medically acceptable and socially acceptable and politically acceptable and economically feasible, are going to stop anybody?
No, because I think there's a front end and a back end to every event. Every event that has its own complexity and footprint, if you know what I'm saying.
You have to go to the source. You have to go to the source. Where is this terrorism coming from, mainly? That's where you have to go. And you know, I don't know, your views on this, and whatever they are, you're certainly entitled to them. But you have to kill people. You do. You have to kill people. I mean, we had a choice in World War II, after Europe, the war in Europe was over, Truman did, to either attack the mainland or to drop the bombs. And we dropped the bombs after telling people to get out, and a lot of people were killed. But if you look at the campaign on a little bitty island like Guadalcanal or Iwo Jima or Tarawa, and look at the casualties that were suffered so quickly in such a microcosm, and then think about what an invasion of the Japanese mainland would have been like. We dropped the bomb. And a lot of people died. But a whole lot more people, and they were Americans, would have died if we had done something different. The same is true here. We have to go where these nests are. I had an ant problem in the master bath here. I had some ants. So, for a day or so, we just killed the ants we saw. But that didn't get rid of the ants. And then what I did is I got an exterminator in here, and he put out some traps with bait, and the ants ate the bait, and they took it back to the ant heaven or wherever they were, and they all died. And this is no different. We have to go to the places where these people fester, where they grow, where they arm, and we have to kill them. Because if we don't, they're going to keep killing us. And God help us if they get their hands on weapons of mass destruction. I mean, we saw what basically just average people could do with 4 jet planes.
There's weapons of mass destruction. I don't want to get too far off topic, but there's weapons of mass destruction in our food supply and in our water. So I understand what you're saying, but weapons of mass destruction are in our own homes.
Well, I understand that.
Many of the leaders of certain governments in the United States of America have condoned aspartame and other types of neurotoxic chemicals into our food and fluorine into our water supply. And so, principally, I understand what you're saying, but terrorists are everywhere. Well,
but so's bad food. And there's a direct analogy to what I said and what you said. And I think all the more so what you said. The government mandates